Hi.
Hey there, everyone. Katie here. This is Malik. And we just got back a few days ago from a 10-day Vipassana meditation retreat in Hawaii. And we both just wanted to share about our experience because it was so incredibly powerful. For me, it was one of the most life-changing things I've ever done. And so I wanted to share this with you, and especially if you're somebody that is really into personal development or expanding yourself or freeing yourself, this is really very important.
Yeah, so this technique is it's pretty intense. It's 10 straight days of meditation and silence.
Silence.
Right?
And this is 10 hours a day.
Right.
For 10 days. So you got over 100 hours of meditation.
Mm-hmm. This was Katie's first time doing this retreat, so she did the whole 110 hours of meditation, the whole thing, and she went through the whole process. This was my third time doing this retreat, and I was serving the retreat. So what my job was to do is do a lot of the cooking, get the kitchen working, and basically serve the sit. And I did about 35 to 40 hours of meditation, about 3 to 4 hours a day.
And he was an incredible chef, by the way. Oh. He made the most delicious food, so I felt very nurtured and taken care of throughout the whole sit. And that's one of the amazing things about it, is that it's by donation only, so you're not really paying anything up front. It's free meals made by really loving people like Malik, and free accommodation. Ours was in Hawaii, so it was a little more hippie, and we were sleeping in tents, which was a little more challenging, but definitely fun.
Some of the centers are very developed, and some of them have private rooms and even cells that you can meditate in. So it depends on where you go.
So this technique they do all over the world. So they do these retreats all over the world. We'll share a little bit more about how you can get to know one of these retreats or sign up yourself.
It's a technique called Vipassana, and it's essentially a Buddhist technique. This organization is at Dhamma.org. It's called Dhamma, and what they've done is really just kind of explain it as an ancient science of the mind. Mm-hmm. So it's without any religious connotations or anything like that. It's really for people who are interested in learning more about themselves. And essentially, what you're getting out of it is the ability to control your impulses, and this is a crucial skill for all humans to have if you want to have good relationships, if you want to get through your projects, if you want to essentially live life and be happy. You got to be able to observe life and not react to it, and enjoy it, respond to it in a way that's aware and in your own choice.
Yeah. So this technique is actually traced back to the Buddha. So it's an ancient Buddhist technique, but it's not dogmatic or religious at all. In fact, one of the main things they talk about is to really not believe anything you hear, what other people tell you is true, until you really experience it yourself. And that's essentially what this technique helps you to do, is experience the truth of who you are and experience the essence of you from a sensational level. And so for me to have been on this journey of personal growth and expansion for the last 6 years plus, and to have read so many books and done so many programs, and to have learned so much, and to have been able to intellectually understand certain concepts that have freed me to a certain point, this was an experience that was so embodied. So the technique itself, instead of observing thoughts or transcending just from the mind or anything like that, this is a meditation where you focus on the sensations of your body. And I just resonated with that immediately as soon as I heard about it, because I just felt in my heart and in my soul that was what I was looking for, was more of a fully integrated, embodied experience. And I've also been having some interesting sensations arise over the last year and a half. Some more painful, tightening sensations around my chest and in my stomach. And so I just had this calling. I just knew, I felt it, that this meditation technique would really help me reconnect with the sensations of my body, which it absolutely did. And so
a little bit of the science behind what this technique really is our brains are split up into three sections. We've got our neocortex, which our stories are in. We've got our limbic system, which our emotions are essentially in. And then we've got our lizard brain, which our sensations are being experienced. It's the motor functions of us. And most of us, when we're on a learning about ourselves or on any kind of personal development path, we're spending a lot of time in the stories, right? And we've done a lot of had a lot of conversation about that in the last few months about unraveling the story. Now, underneath that story, which is really just symbols, are emotions, which are stored in the limbic system. So they're associated to the stories, and we talked about that in some of our videos about how the emotions are connected to those stories, and we can go through those emotions and kind of start to detach them from the story. Now, this is the third level, which is the most profound level, and in my opinion, is when you go down into the sensations. All emotions have a sensational base, which is essentially tightness or sympathetic nervous system response, contraction, or expansion, which is the parasympathetic nervous system response. And that's the basic, most animal part of our body. And when you go down to that level where you're just feeling the sensations in your body, you are now detaching yourself from the story and even the emotions, and you're going down and learning in this particular technique, you're going down to learn how to not react to whatever the sensations in your body are. The ones that you've associated to pain or the ones you've associated to pleasure. You don't try to resist one, and you don't try to crave the other. And it's the reason why it takes 110 hours of meditating to figure that out is that we have been trained our whole lives. The way we're built is to react to our sensations. If something hurts, we run away from it.
Right.
If something feels good, we go towards it. Unfortunately, that makes us enslaved to our sensations.
Right. Right, like if we're always seeking something better or more, we're never really fulfilled in the moment, and we're always running. And if we're avoiding our sensations, like if if we feel angry or we feel guilty or we feel sad or we feel upset in some way and we want to push it down or we want to distract ourselves or avoid in some way, that avoidance is also running. And, I believe that there can be unresolved energy then that gets built up in the body and continues to repeat cycles and patterns that cause us pain. So it's really so important to be able to really feel and observe the sensations, which so many of us aren't used to doing in our Western culture. It's like we're so up in the head all the time. And often we're not even connected to the sensations in our body, because every emotion, every story that we have, every thought creates a sensation. So that's what Malik was saying, that it's the core, it's the root of all of our experience. And so when we think we want something or we're trying to avoid something, we're essentially just trying to manage our sensations, or trying to get better ones, or trying to avoid these sensations. So often we think, I want this in my life. I want this to be happy. I want this relationship. I want this business. I want this money. But really all we're wanting is the sensation of that. And so when you can really get to know your sensations and be with them and love them and be equanimous to, again, where you're not avoiding, you're not craving, you're just able to be, you have so much power. You're not a slave anymore, like Malik said.
So on the server side, I had some other experiences that were pretty amazing as far as leadership and understanding the organizing power of compassion. Right now, I'd like to actually hear about your experience when it came to like, what was the result? What was the biggest result that you had?
Well, first off, the first day of this retreat, after meditating for 10 hours on the first day, with breaks in between, of course, but mind you, I have not had this level of meditation experience. So it was a little bit of a shock the first day. The longest meditation I had before that was 45 minutes. So to go from 45 minutes to 10 hours. Practice. However, you can do it.
Yeah.
You can totally do it. I did it, and at first, the first day I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. Yeah. I knew I wasn't going to leave. I wasn't going to give up. But
well, you guys in this community are champions.
Yeah.
You've been attracted to this community for a reason.
Exactly. It's so worth it. It's so worth it. We got to go through the pain and the discomfort to get to freedom. It's just how it goes. So this retreat definitely sets you up for that.
All right.
So at first it was incredible to start really getting to know and feel my sensations in a more intimate way. And for quite a few days, most of my sensations were more tight and even some achy and even some, sharp and stinging and prickling. And I was amazed at how much I could actually feel in my body that I wasn't aware of before because I was more up in my head. So that alone was huge, even though a lot of these sensations weren't pleasant. I did my best to just be equanimous with them. And what ends up happening is that the more you're just aware and the more you're just being with what is in your body, sensations flow and they pass. So one of the big principles of life, a law of nature, and something that they talk about a lot in this retreat, is the law of impermanence, that nothing ever stays the same. Everything is constantly changing. So every sensation we have in our body is changing as well. So nothing is fixed. If we're feeling good, that's not going to last. And if we're feeling bad, that's not going to last either. So that's another reason why it's kind of pointless to chase after sensations we want and avoid ones we don't, because everything changes anyway.
Yeah, and so there's two really important principles that Katie mentioned. One is equanimity. She talked about being equanimous, and what that really means is the root of it is the word equal. So having an equal observation of any sensations. You're just seeing them almost as scientists. You're just looking at them without any judgment. Zero judgment. So equanimity is a state of zero judgment. So we're not trying to move away from painful sensations. We're not even seeing pain as pain after a while or pleasure as pleasure. We're just starting to see it as like, whoa, that's something. That's an experience. That's a sensation that I'm having. And so, and then that is a necessary state of being to achieve so that you can see the impermanence of it all, right? So at that middle space, the middle way they call it, that middle space of being equanimous to your sensations, you start to see that, oh yeah, they're just changing like this incredibly beautiful wave. And you're starting to observe it. And then once you've spent enough time, and in this case it takes quite a few days to get to that spot where you're just like, right? And then you all of a sudden realize that you do have a choice. You do have a choice, and it's by the end of the retreat they're teaching you three techniques in this particular retreat. First, they're teaching you to clear your mind with a breath awareness technique, and then that lasts 3 days, and then you've got several more days. The next 6 days are observing the sensation in this increasing level of the technique is very detailed, but you start with a very small area of the skin and move, and then eventually you're feeling the sensations in bigger parts of your body, and eventually your whole body at once. And it's quite a practice. It's not like you're going to be bored in this technique. And then at the end of it, you learn the third and final piece of this particular program, which is metta, and that's compassion or loving kindness. And so now you're actually choosing to experience your sensations with a particular vantage point. So now it's not just the flat scientific look at it with no judgment, but it's actually loving those sensations and loving what is. And so you had a particular experience of this that I thought was really incredible.
Yeah, definitely. So as I was moving through and progressing throughout the days, like I said, sensations that were so tight started opening and moving and flowing, and I started feeling vibrations in my body that I'd never felt before. Just such a lightness and opening, and ultimately I felt like I had shed so many layers that I had built up over a lifetime, or I kind of got rid of all of these inner cobwebs and knots in my body. It was absolutely amazing. And so there were also a couple experiences that were totally life-changing. One was that I started having dreams while I was there, and the dreams were very symbolic, where in the dreams I would do something unknowingly, unconsciously or innocently, and end up hurting somebody that I loved. And this is a little bit of a recurring pattern while I was there. And so I started looking at this feeling of guilt that was coming up in my dreams, and looking at myself and my past. And I think I have a little bit of the stereotypical Catholic guilt that I've been dealing with. So, but what was fascinating is that I had an experience come up of this guilt, and instead of trying to make it go away or talking myself out of it, I just really decided I was okay. I'm going to do this practice fully. I'm going to be with it. I'm going to feel it. I'm going to observe it and really get to know, what does guilt really feel like? And it's so amazing because we can add so many layers of story on top of our emotions or our sensations. And, guilt and anger and sadness and all of these more quote unquote negative emotions that we experience are just sensations in the body. And so being able to just feel it and be with it, it was like, oh, it's really not that bad. Yeah. It ends up passing. And what also clicked in me was that I have a choice whether I'm going to continue holding on to this or not. I have a choice. And even though I've known that logically for a long time, it was something that was a visceral click and a knowing, where all of a sudden it was like I knew I could just love myself. I could accept all of me and all of my past and all of who I am, and it's my choice. Nobody else can do that for me. And in that choice to really be with it and feel it and know I don't have to hold on to it, it was able to pass and let go. And what I realized too is that a lot of people that talk about letting go, or a lot of teachings that you hear about, spiritual teachings or personal growth teachings, they tell you to let go, but don't really say how. Right. And it's like, you can't let go from the mind only. Yeah. It's impossible. You can't talk yourself into letting go. And that's what I felt like I was doing in the past. I was like, okay, I need to just let go of this. I need to let go. And I would talk myself into it. And it's not effective. Right. So you have to actually be with and feel fully your sensations and your emotions and everything in order for them to pass and let go. Otherwise, again, they continue to get stuck and stagnate in your body and in your being. So that was a huge one for me, to feel this like weight lift from me.
Yeah, it's like letting go at the mind level. It's sort of like saying, like, don't think of this banana. Don't think of this banana. And
You're having a bite of banana before the video.
Don't think of this banana. Don't think of this banana. Let it go. Don't think of it. Let it go.
Right.
And unfortunately, the mind doesn't work that way. If what it's observing, it's going to keep on thinking of, right? So we literally just changed the vantage point, right? We moved from the stories into the emotions underneath the stories, and then underneath those emotions into the sensations, and then we're actually now not observing the stories, we're now just observing the sensations. And as it turns out, the putting the attention on the sensations is the closest thing to observational truth we can get to.
And it's the linchpin. It's what lets it all go.
Yeah. It's the key to letting the story go.
Yeah.
And
so I had another really powerful experience too, where so like I mentioned, I'd been having these tight sensations in my heart for the last year and a half. And during the retreat, as I would put my awareness on my chest area and I was scanning there, I would feel all sorts of sensations there. And one day, and this was day 8, this was after 8 days of meditating, I started feeling my heart close and tight so intensely, more than I ever have before. It was like, as I was feeling it, was like, could it even keep getting tighter? But it did. And it was so deep in my body. And I, again, was just being with it and not resisting it and not wanting it to go away, and just observing it, fully feeling it. And it was just getting tighter and tighter and tighter. And all of a sudden, I also had a big realization come in. And it was simply to love first. And what I realized is that I had been waiting for my heart to open, to feel more love, and to be able to to feel more love for myself, to love more, as if like this needed to open before I could experience the depth of my love. And I realized how backwards that was, and that by simply in that moment knowing and choosing, okay, I can love first, and I knew that that was what would open my heart. Yeah. And so what I did is I just started going through every part of my body, every organ, every part of my skin, my nervous system, my brain, my eyes, like literally every part of my body, and feeling it and sending so much love to those areas and feeling so much compassion too. Like whatever pain was there in that area, whatever tightness, whatever story was there, I just was loving with all my heart. And it was a very conscious act, where it was not just a passive thing. It was very intentional. And my heart at first was tighter and tighter. And I still was like, I can still love even with a tight heart. I can still love even if I'm hurt. And that's huge, because so many of us think that we need to like be healed first or fixed first or open first before we can love, or we need this to happen before we can love. And it just doesn't work that way. You know, we've got to love first. And so in that process, my heart started opening and opening and opening. And it was for the first time in a long time, it opened so much. And I felt such a flood of love come through and flow through every part of my body. And it kind of makes me emotional talking about it right now. It was so beautiful and so powerful, and not only this flow of love, but like love for myself. So much love for myself, more love for myself than I've ever had in my life. It was such an embodied experience of self-love. But that love was just flowing out, and it just had so much love for everyone, for all of life, and had so much creativity and insight and everything just all of a sudden flowing through. And I'm just so grateful for that experience. So incredibly grateful. And you know, since then, whatever that the deep core tightening was in my heart has released. And I will now get like little sensations or little tightenings, because I'm more aware now of my body since doing Vipassana. And if something happens in my experience, or I have a thought or something arises, my heart area will kind of tell me what's going on. So I might have a little sensation arise here or a little bit here, but the depth of what was there has released. And so just amazing. Yeah. Just amazing.
In the tradition, they call those really neural pathways that have been locked into feedback loops. So that tightening is really just the story that creates a sensation, and then sensation then feeds the story, and then the story feeds the sensation, and then it causes these tightenings, which is can be experienced as anxiety or all kinds of pains, right? Mm-hmm. It's just like a lot of chemicals in there mm-hmm. that we locked into, and then when we're able to like be aware of it and then choose to have a different experience by just mm-hmm. simply just having compassion on top of that. The word compassion means with suffering.
Right.
And so we're simply with the suffering without judgment. And that's the first stage of being able to love, right? And that's really the first physical stage of self-love. And it's actually very practical, and very simple thing to do. It takes an immense amount of dedication, though, to put yourself into that scenario. It's how many days into the retreat?
It was 8. 8 days.
So 8 days of meditating. I remember the first time I did this retreat. For me, it was 9 days. I was near at the end of it before I had that experience. And some people, they don't get that experience right at the first time they do that sit, but it takes more meditating to get to that place.
Right. So everybody has their own unique experience.
Yeah.
So we're sharing I'm sharing my experience. Yeah. Malik's going to share his, and so we're just sharing to let you know how incredibly powerful it was for us, and you will have a completely different experience that's perfect for you.
And the probability that you'll have a really amazing experience is very high. The majority of people who do this particular technique, I mean, it's been around thousands of years for one, and it is the pillar of of a whole movement of conscious thinking. So this is basic stuff, and when it comes to being free, to releasing yourself. When I was serving, I had a couple of great realizations. The nice thing about serving this retreat is that I'm doing the technique while I'm in activity. The nice thing about this particular meditation technique is that since you're observing the sensations, you can do that in a lot of other activities in life.
Right. You can do it all the time.
You can do it pretty much all the time. You can't do it if you're thinking too much.
Right.
But you can do it when you're...
But that's the beautiful part about it. It gets you out of your head into your body where the real wisdom lies. So.
Yeah, it really does. And Vipassana actually means wisdom.
Yeah.
So So in this service part of the retreat for me, I had a couple of awesome observations. One was the organizing power of compassion. So this metta experience, METTA, or loving kindness or compassion, as they call it in the Pali language, when the kitchen crew was observing deadlines and trying to get things done from a more like linear mentality, it had a certain vibe. We were doing the right thing. We felt good about it and everything. But when we were actually making compassion the goal, that we were getting them the food because we loved them and wanted them to have a soft experience, because we wanted them to not be distracted. When we were actually doing our best to lift the suffering of the community, lift the suffering of ourselves, lift the suffering of the kitchen crew, lift the suffering of the guests who were in the technique learning, we would get the food out on time. We would keep the kitchen clean. The food tasted great. And when we would revert back to the more linear goals, oftentimes we would miss our deadlines, and oftentimes there was a little more tension in the air, and oftentimes the food didn't taste as good. So it was really incredible to observe the organizational power of compassion, how it got everybody to kind of act as one mind, to be in a song together. And it was brilliant and beautiful, and it really softened the edges of the experience. And so that was one big observation that I had that was awesome to see it and feel it, right? Like when the whole crew was feeling compassion and lifting the suffering the goal, we all felt love for each other. We felt love for what we were doing. We were more present, more aware. We were aware of multiple things. We were able to multitask it a lot better. Like we were really just getting more brain chemistry, I think. And so that was one really powerful observation. Another was really this like little formula that I saw, the connection between leadership and love. I think a lot of people in our community here, and we can speak to you directly because we know that you are a leader, and at some level, and oftentimes leadership is seen as in a certain context. It's like separate. But I was really able to see this little algorithm, which was like a connection, that true leadership is service. And service is a meditation. And meditation is deep attention. And deep attention is love. So true leadership is really service, because you are, as the leader, really serving the needs of a team, of a community, of a customer base, or whatever it is. And in true leadership, you are really serving a particular role that's extremely important, which is guiding the ship. And in true leadership is really just service. You're a servant to the community.
Right.
Yeah.
It's huge.
And service, when you're truly serving, it is a meditation. It is a present experience, where if in this particular experience, it was a very in-the-body experience of feeling what it's like to feel the sensations of service, to really feel what it's like to be in a state of being of service. And it feels awesome. It feels intense sometimes, but it always comes from this feeling of love. And in that way, service is a meditation. It's a present experience. And meditation really is just deep attention, and deep attention to the present moment, to what's happening, to the intention or the goal being something that you must have in your heart at the moment, at all times in that moment as you're approaching it. And that deep attention, ultimately deep attention to any person or anything, is a non-judgmental observation. And the non-judgmental observation is the first opening to love. And in that way, I was able to see this algorithm for true leadership is service, is meditation, is deep attention, is love. And really that leadership and love are one and the same when they're actually connected in this particular algorithm. And so those were my two big lessons, observations, is the organizing power of compassion and the connection between leadership and love.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
It really is.
It was good stuff.
I learned so much hearing about Malik's experience when he was done too, all around these very ideas. Yeah.
So,
amazing.
There you have it. There's some pretty powerful experiences.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And the meta day, the 10th day, the last day when we are in compassion was so beautiful. The focused attention on compassion and radiating love to all beings and saying prayers for all beings to be happy and peaceful and free. It was just so beautiful, and I felt so much love on that day, so much love just emanating from me, and so much love since then. Right. And since the retreat as well, we have been in such a flow. It was incredible. So I had this intuition that the Vipassana retreat would be really powerful and it would probably bring clarity, but I didn't have any expectations for it. And it was interesting because I didn't have any clarity necessarily come through around our project or anything like that during the retreat. And I was okay with that. I was working on my sensations and everything. But as soon as we got out and we spent a few extra days in Hawaii, there was so much creative flow and so much clarity. It was mind-blowing, actually, how much things were falling into place because we were just so clear and so present and having so much compassion and continuing our meditation practice, which is really important. And
it's because the decisions that we're making are really based on a sensational experience of love right now, and when you do that, then you're not making decisions based on winning the game or keeping like a score,
right,
which tends to be what we do. You know, more profits equals success.
Yeah.
For most of us, that after a while, that experience starts to become pretty empty because you're winning a game that doesn't include much love,
right?
And then the experience of it isn't so good. So when your motivation is love, then all of a sudden your decisions start happening much faster.
Right.
Your choices, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And projects, connections,
absolutely.
Interactions are much smoother.
And also being able to feel the sensations and be in that practice not only during a formal sit when we've been meditating morning and night, but all the time and throughout the day, and especially when there's more intense energy that arises where in the past I could have reacted. Right. to the situation. Now I'm so much more non-reactive, and that's been amazing because I'm just with our experiences since then, I just drop in and I feel my sensations, and without pushing them away, just being with them, and they eventually they move, they flow, and they pass.
And in that way, there is no obstacle. There's no such thing. You've eradicated all obstacles.
Right. So it's not like doing this retreat will make everything perfect, but you have a tool that you can use for the rest of your life to bring about more peace and freedom and love and everything that we're talking about. So that's why it's life-changing. The experiences I had, the peak experiences I had during the retreat were beautiful and life-changing as well. And it's this, being able to really integrate this into our daily lives that's even more powerful, and something that most other techniques that you might learn or that you might have one experience with, it's nothing like that. No one-time experience is going to change your life. It's always got to be something that you continue to practice. And this practice is so enjoyable. It really is. I used to kind of avoid meditation because I used to do different types of meditation that I didn't have as deep of an experience with, and now it's enjoyable to be with myself and to feel my sensations, and something that I'm just so grateful to be able to continue practicing and to share with you guys.
So if you guys are interested, we'll make sure that there's a link to this particular
and again,
retreat.
It's pretty much free. It's donation only, so you only donate at the end, and it just goes to show how transformative this retreat is the fact that they don't have to charge you up front,
Right.
and that they run this international organization with retreats all over the world.
And you're not even allowed to donate unless you've done a whole 10-day retreat.
Yep.
So you're not even
Yeah.
allowed. I mean, if I could try to offer them $1 million, if I haven't done,
Right.
and people have. People have
Yeah.
tried to offer big money, and they won't even take it because they want the purity of the financial model is incredible, which is they
So much
give
integrity.
first. We talk about that concept a lot,
Yeah.
but it is really true when what you're offering gives freedom to your
Right.
community. When it gives true freedom to your community will support it and make sure that other people get that.
Exactly.
And it is really, really incredible to experience it. You know, this crew. So you don't even have to. You just go there. You set aside the time. And if the hardest thing I think people have going in is they're afraid that. I don't know if I could sit that long. It's
You can.
You can.
You can do it.
You really can.
It'll be challenging for sure, but it's a good challenge. You'll be able to get through. I actually was thinking about how it's very similar to how when women give birth, they're in so much intense pain. But then afterwards, once they have their baby and there's just so much love, they forget all about the pain because it's so worth it. It's
Yeah.
so worth it, and it's not as bad as I haven't had a baby yet, but it's not that painful. But you can totally do
Right.
it. We highly, highly, highly recommend it. This is just our giving to you of sharing the experience because we know it can offer you so much freedom in yourself and in your life. And even if you can't do the retreat yet, you can still start practicing feeling your sensations. You know,
Yeah.
like we were saying, you can just, I like to think about at first feeling the palms of your hands. Like if you were to close your eyes and just feel the sensations in your palms, because we have the ability to feel pretty easily there, you can start feeling sensation and vibration or cooling or whatever you may feel in your hands. And it's just kind of a great place to start. And then however you want to do it, just in your meditation or throughout the day, to just tune in and feel, what am I feeling in my chest right now?
Yeah,
What am I feeling in my
do it
stomach?
with pure curiosity,
Right.
Not wanting any particular
Right.
feeling. Not being afraid of a feeling and not wanting it. Being completely non-judgmental to the feeling.
Completely neutral
Yeah.
and equanimous.
Totally neutral.
I love that, the curiosity. Goenka, the teacher who teaches the Vipassana technique, talks about that a lot. Just what is the sensation? I wonder how long it's going to last. You're just like very innocently curious and very neutral, like you're sitting on the edge of a river just watching it.
Yeah, like a playful child who knows nothing about what you're experiencing. And the truth is that you don't know most of your experience in life. You don't know it. You're not aware of it.
Right.
I've been blown away so many times of how much more deep into my body I can go and be shocked.
It's almost never ending.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's like if you want depth in your life and you want real peace and freedom and love, this is it. It's through the body.
Yeah. And all of the experiences that you've ever wanted in life, whether you wanted a business that was making money or a soulmate or happy family relationships or adventure or whatever, you're really just asking for this physical internal experience inside of your body. And turns out it's already there.
Yep.
It turns out that you don't have to have any of those experiences to get it, and it's probably happening right now to you.
Right.
And you're just not even aware of it. Literally, there's parts of your brain to develop so that you can become more aware of that. And this is actually a physical exercise that enhances those parts of your brain and gives you an experience of worlds inside of your body that you don't even know you have right now. The other thing that people resist is the 10 days. I don't know if I can get 10 days away from work, 10 days away from this, 10 days away from my kids, 10 days away from everything that's urgent. And I'm telling you, you don't have, you got... This, I wish I had learned this decade ago, decade before I did learn it. I have learned it 50 years ago. And it's just I think about 10 days to absolutely change my life, and it's not going to cost me anything.
Worth it.
It was holy cow. And so the what you get out of it at the end of it is a realization that you do have 10 days to do this, and you do have the ability to sit through the whole experience, and you do have the ability to not react to your sensations, and you do have the ability to control yourself in as life approaches you, and observe it lovingly and enjoy it with complete and total bliss of experience. You're actually capable of doing that. And so we really hope that you guys have got a little curiosity on this one. I think.
So check it out at Dhamma.org.
Yeah.
We'll give you the link, and let us know. Send either one of us a message if you sign up, and if you do it, love to hear from you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for spending this time with us and taking the time to listen to our share here. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll talk to you soon.